Hello. So this is my mobile learning unit, and let's get into it. So the unit topic I ended up going with was 11th grade US history. For this, the students will learn about the 1920s, specifically about politics, the muckrakers, the roaring 20s, industries and inventions, the Harlem Renaissance. So a lot of societal issues. There's politics. There's so much going in the 1920s, but these are some of the big focuses here. And here's the California Content Standard for Social Science, 11.5. And then Content Standard continued. And so for the virtual activities, the main ones that I use are primarily Zoom, Kahoot, Quizlet, Google Slides, Canva, and YouTube. So Zoom is pretty standard, and all the students are familiar with this for digital conferences and remote learning. Kahoot is kind of more for me of a nostalgia thing for the older students, especially high school students, just harkening back to when they were younger with some of the quizzes. Quizlet is pretty cool, I think, even though it's pretty simple, just the idea that you have digital flashcards that you could create. And then on the right, Google Slides, Canva, and YouTube. These would predominantly be for creating presentations, and then YouTube you could even use as a resource for watching videos in class. So for the student-centered slide here, on the left I have differentiation, and some of those points I would include choice, scaffolding, pictures and videos, extended time for activities. That's a pretty big one for a lot of my IEP students, is parents requesting more time for activities. And then students having the option to score points through discussion rather than just writing. So again, giving the students many options for even something like an assessment, whether than instead of just writing to test a student and content knowledge, you can just speak to them. On the right, I have UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and this one, different than differentiation, but still student-centered. It gives the students multiple means of expressing themselves through the learning process. And so for here, I have a quick glance of 1 week of my class schedule. So this first week of the unit would be politics of the muckrakers. Tuesday would be the roaring 20s. Wednesday would be industries and inventions. Thursday would be the Harlem Renaissance. And then for me, I thought a cool thing would be is to implement Fridays, what I thought was pretty cool when I was in middle school. And that was my social studies teacher would have us bring a news article in every Friday. And it could be of our own choice. It could be something about what we're learning. It could be something that we're not. But the idea is just to kind of get us involved in current events. And so for Monday here, I have my objective, instructional plan, and closure. And the objective is for students to learn about the muckrakers. Instructional plan includes my materials, opening question, and activity. And for this one, the activity is the students will use a muckrakers notepad to create 2 paragraphs in a news article style, reminiscent of the muckraker. So for this activity, I really like because it challenges the students to use higher order thinking and Bloom's taxonomy, specifically with analyzing some of these social issues in the 1920s, and additionally also creating news articles. The students have to be creative with what kind of vivid language they're going to use to capture an audience to really care about the issue that they're bringing attention to. And then finally, I have exit ticket here, and this kind of asks the students to think of one example of a modern day muckraker. So what issue do we have today that the muckrakers of the 1920s might consider writing about? And then the second slide right here on Monday is just a couple screenshots of my Google Classroom assignments. For Tuesday, again, I have an objective, instructional plan, and closure. For Tuesday, the students are going to learn about some of the events, causes, and cultural changes of the Roaring Twenties. And for the instructional plan, I ended up going with a short Roaring Twenties video on YouTube. And so I have the YouTube link here. It's actually from Crash Courses. And then finally a closure and exit ticket. So here's a screenshot of the video I have in the assignment. We would be doing this as a Zoom meeting together, so that way I could pause a video for checks of understanding. This video is actually pretty short. It's only about 13-14 minutes. So there's a lot of time in here for an exit ticket and for just general class discussion and collaboration. For Wednesday, I have the students learning about news industries and inventions. And so for this one, I have a PDF link of the different types of inventions. For this activity, I'm going to have the students end up creating a Quizlet using the Quizlet app in their account. Pretty cool thing about this activity is whether the students know it or not, the teacher could actually use some of these questions that they create for a future test or a pop quiz. And then finally you have the closure or exit ticket. Here's a screenshot of the Google Classroom assignments. For Thursday, we would focus on the Harlem Renaissance. The objective is for the students to learn more about the Harlem Renaissance and Black cultural contributions during the 1920s. For this one, we would be using Zoom and a digital gallery walk. So the students are primarily going to focus on the Harlem Renaissance, and I have selected video clips of certain songs and music genres. There's also pictures of some of these famous paintings during the Harlem Renaissance. And then finally, there's a section with poetry and literature that the students can also examine. And then finally, an exit ticket. So here's a screenshot of the assignments that I have on Google Classroom. Friday is the current events. The students are basically just going to bring their own article in. If this is over Zoom, they could share a news article through a website. Keeping in times when I was younger, it was just a physical newspaper, but now we have internet. So the students are able to use Zoom to show their news article of their own choosing. And then again, an exit ticket, just commenting on maybe an article that they found that was interesting that was not their own article that they brought in. And then for this one, here's a class schedule. This would be the second week to kind of wrap up this small unit. And for this unit right here, Monday I would have a society lecture and Kahoot. And so this one is just kind of to give them an immersion of more information. Some of it they might already know, some of it they might not, but just to introduce them to societal information here, we'll focus on introducing the students to new content in the 1920s. And then for Tuesday and Wednesday, I would give the students a small group project. And all they have to do is, it's pretty simple. They create maybe 4 or 5 slides with a group of students, and this gives them the choice of choosing anything from the lecture that we went over on Monday, and they're able to, one, they have their choice of what issue or which topic they wanted to talk about, whether it's women's rights, prohibition, anything societal, religious tensions, racism during the 1920s. So there's a lot here in this one lecture from Monday. And so I would give my students a couple days on the Zoom right here for Tuesday and Wednesday. I would actually have it be on Zoom so that way the students are held accountable and I could watch them as they're working in their breakout groups. Thursday, I would give the students the opportunity, really short, it doesn't have to be anything long, but just to present their presentations. Again, this is kind of like a jigsaw where they're really focusing on one, collaboration and working together. Two, they have their choice of creativity depending on what they choose, and the style of presentation. And then again, just re-emphasizing the information that we went over on Monday for 1920s society. And then for Friday, I thought it would end off with a pretty fun video, 1920s in color. This is a pretty cool movie because it has the 1920s, but remastered with color. And so it's interesting. I've shown it to one class last fall when I was going through this unit, and it was pretty cool because we were able to see a lot of the 1920s videos and a lot of the things that the students learned about, but instead of being in gray or black and white, seeing that in color really just brings it to life, and it really pops. So that would be my 2-week unit there. Additional information, here's my Google Classroom link and a class code. And just going over, we could look at the Google Classroom right here. We could even look, here's just my little home page right here, along with some of the assignments that I posted. Here's one that's pretty cool. The Harlem Renaissance one, you can see right here. I won't click on it, but it goes into, well, we could click on a worksheet here, and we have things like examining swing and jive, jazz, blues music. We have artists, authors, literature. So a lot for the students to kind of go over for this digital gallery walk. Some of the videos here that we actually have live footage of these actual musicians during the 1920s, and some of the music that was very, very powerful at the time. So something like Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington's Take the A Train is a big one. And so yeah, this is my Google Classroom. Here's another slide that I have for the inventions that the students would be making a Quizlet out of. And that's my mobile learning unit.